Okay, hello. So yesterday I alluded to the fact that there have been big changes done recently, actually over the last, I think, 3 days to the project. Now, I also talked about yesterday hitting a massive slump and a massive, I don't know what you'd call it, excitement lull or lull in excitement. But eventually I finished the pathfinding section or the pathfinding implementation, which was really cock and ball torture, as it usually is for most of the projects. But I don't know. I hit this thing of like furniture generation, whatever, and I guess everything was like kind of boring, and I wasn't in love with the project anymore, at least in love with the idea of the project anymore, and I really wanted to start a new one. But I took the executive decision to review biases I had before starting the project. Now, all of the projects that I've done so far have been in Python or HTML, CSS, JavaScript, online TypeScript, whatever you want to call it. So it's either been like a web stack or Python, but I've essentially had to start with nothing. There's no, almost no libraries. I mean, for this one, I was using the phaser library, but I don't remember what that actually helped me with, and I think it was just a small implementation. Maybe UI, I don't remember. But anyways, for every single thing, I had to completely create the engine from scratch. This is rendering, physics, object detection, whatever you want to, literally everything. And the reason I did this is because well, for some context, before, that must have been like, I guess between 2018 and 2022, maybe, I had bouts of attempts at developing games on Unity and one on Unreal Engine. My issue with the GUI-based editors are that the learning curve is a little steeper because you have to learn where to click buttons and stuff like that and how the engine already operates. And I believed this was not worth learning when I could already program in Python and JavaScript and HTML. So I thought to myself, what if we revisit that? What if we go back to these GUI-based editors, such as Unity, and we see whether it is actually that much of cock and bull torture? So I decided to try to recreate what we've done so far in Unity in 3D. I could have done it in 2D, but come on, I'm going to send it. Might as well full send it. So I decided to try to recreate what we did in 3D in Unity, and I thought this was going to take a while, possibly 1 to 2 weeks, at least as long as I spent developing the project on the web. Now, if you remember correctly, or if you remember at all, this is what we left off with. So we have a basic camera system, which I had to program from scratch. We have unit selection and unit ordering, whatever you want to call it, instruction giving. We have 3 basic classes of agents. We have guests, zombies, and survivors. We have some AI for the guests and the zombies. Zombies have a basic wandering AI, and then the hunting, what do you call it? Op detection and chasing. And we have guests that have threat detection and fleeing and basic wandering too, and shelter seeking through a primitive, I don't even want to call it a neural net, but just a basic brain. We have procedural generation of what I find hard to call a hotel, because it almost feels like a city procedural generation because of the randomness of the streets and the rooms all being different sizes and all the furniture being random and stuff like that, which you will see, spoiler alert, has been revisited in the Unity project. We have basic furniture. It doesn't really work. I mean, there's like boxes in the rooms and nothing much else. We have this like time. Oh, you can't see it because my webcam's blocking. We have this like time of day thing that is not used for anything. So it's completely disconnected from everything. And Nothing else. That's basically it. Okay. So it actually turns out that I was a little silly goofball because I managed to recreate and improve upon the project probably within, I want to say 3 days, but that doesn't convey the speed of this development process. I mean, under 7 hours, I believe, I was able to recreate the whole thing, or 8 hours, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, anyways, let me introduce you to the 3D game. Okay, there's a lot that has been changed here. Namely, as you can tell, generation, sorry, it's really mega laggy right now. The scene is just not optimized, there's this, whatever. Anyways, you can tell there's no more procedural generation, or at least width-wise. There isn't an infinite spread. I thought to myself, if there was a truly infinite hotel, it would probably be infinitely tall, not infinitely wide. That doesn't really make sense. So we redesigned the procedural generation to be tall and not wide. For this MVP, we have a single floor, but this floor can be made into a prefab. It actually was, I deleted the folder, but it can be made into a prefab and literally just copy and pasted infinitely up. But the issue with the infinite tower is, if you remember correctly, back in the 2D legacy, now depreciated version of this project, we had some sort of patios or terraces that were littered across the map that could be used for procedural acquisition of food and water. I'm saying acquisition because it wasn't generated. You're just harvesting the resources that already exist around you, namely through hunting of like birds and laying traps for those, and rainwater collection. Those are like my basic idea, or that was my basic idea of the procedural generation of food and water. Of course, you can also go down like a nomadic path of never settling down and forever climbing the infinite tower in search of food and more water. I mean, that could be feasible. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem that maybe, I mean, that's a playstyle that's still open. So I'm not going to close that down, but I also want to, or I'm not like, yeah, whatever, scratching that off the list. I just wanted to add the ability to be able to also pursue something like a basic base building and settling down. Okay, that's the shape of the hotel, but you might be thinking, Lorenzo, why is there a massive glory hole in the middle of this hotel? This is what I'm calling the atrium, okay? This fixes the renewable problem of the game. This space in the middle, which you can't see because I've disabled it. Let me remember how to do this. Oh, it's here. With atrium enabled, now this of course it doesn't look very procedural because this is just the MVP. Eventually the atrium will be almost infinite. This is also just for ambient occlusion, so what other stuff I'm going to develop, like whatever. Anyways, this atrium in the middle is going to consist of a lot of halls that are crossing, you know, bridges, areas in the middle, almost, I mean, I'm sure there's like loads of hotels that do this, where the core of the hotel is just like this open space. And because this is infinitely tall, it's not actually meant to have a ceiling. Of course it has a floor, but you'll never find it because you're like, the chances of you being near the floor are infinitesimally small because it's an infinitely tall hotel. So I'm never going to even think of generating a floor. I thought it would be really funny to have like a really low chance of you spawning on a floor. So just in case someone ever did, it would be like a cute, like a Easter egg almost, but it would literally be infinitesimally small. So it doesn't really make sense implementing that. Maybe in the future when I'm procrastinating a bigger implementation, I'll waste my time doing those like small little flavor things. But anyways, this has ceiling currently, but it will not in the final version. And this is essentially a microclimate for the hotel. So out here on the outside, this will be like a normal sun, sky, whatever it is. This will be normal weather. This is the outside atmosphere of the Earth. But inside, this will be a dark, humid, gloomy, foggy environment because of course it's a closed system, at least, you know, practically it's a closed system because it's infinitely tall. And there's a lot of humidity generation because of maybe like well, I don't know, AC vents that are on the outside to whatever. We're gonna flavor this out. We're gonna build this out more, but it's basically just this microclimate that exists that has birds and this almost permanent rain. And yeah, this environment where you'll be able to hunt and gain water, whatever, but it also be like a cool like little mood setter. Be like the outside gloomy, misty environment or whatever. Anyways, that's what that's doing right now. And that's my fix to that. That's why there's this massive tower in the middle. There are currently only 2 different types of rooms. There is a standard 6x7 room and a standard 7x7 room, which clearly has not been furnished yet due to laziness. But these will be furnished, and eventually we're gonna have like crazy suites and maybe even smaller rooms. We're gonna add more variation to the rooms, but of course less variation than there was in the 2D game, because again, hotels don't have that many different types of rooms. I don't know how many rooms the average hotel has, not to risk copyright or anything, but I'd like to base this hotel off of something like the Hilton or Marriott or something like that. Purely because I'd want like a nicer, fancier hotel. If a hotel were to be infinite, it would probably be really fancy, right? So that's the thinking there. Clearly, there's no special zones, there's no gyms, there's no restaurants. None of that has been generated yet, but that's also going to be simple. Essentially, I'm just going to take a big space. Imagine this space in the middle, this 5x2, block it out and build a restaurant. Block it out, build a gym. If that doesn't work, maybe I'll even take a bigger zone, take a 2x2 of that section, cut out the corridors and build a restaurant or build a gym, something like that. And that should be good for procedure generation, and we can randomly assign those, so that will be procedural. And we'll also generate like special room procedure generation through like suites or whatever. But that'll allow us to keep the whole infinity concept, because it'll be infinitely expanding. It'll be fully procedurally generated, so it'll feel random every time you play, and that'll allow for some replayability, which I think is fun and nice. Anyways, what you see here too is this pink and blue goop. This is the nav mesh for, you know what, I'll talk about technicals in a second. Is there anything in terms of game architecture that I want to? No, I think that's the main change for now. Okay. Now, let me show you the 3 different types of guests we have. So if I go, oh, as you can tell, this is all prefabbed. Okay, I feel like I've done a good job developing this, at least in a smart way. Anyways, we have 3 different types of actors for now. We have zombies, which are represented by a red capsule. They have some specific qualities that other guests don't have. I don't think I'm going to dive too deep into this. I mean, you can see the values here and see the difference yourself. We have guests, again, different. I've made every single actor 1.7 meters tall and 0.25 meters in radius. That's the average values for the average human, male, not female. A female is 1.6 meters tall, I believe, but I wasn't gonna bother with that. Anyways, then we have a survivor who's a guest, but survivor. They're the same color. They can be controlled by the player. I'm actually thinking of making guests and survivors even more similar and actually give survivors basic, or at least the same logic as guests, but allow survivors to be player controlled. I might just switch this later to only have a guest agent with a flag that can be toggled to determine whether they are able to be human controlled or not. I feel like that'll be easier than having two separate actors or 2 separate agent types. When the game is started, just gonna take a second. But as soon as the game is started, you will see that we use an orthographic camera. As soon as I'm able to switch to the game, we use an orthographic camera. This is the same type of view or type of camera that we used in the 2D version. Right now, this is just to create parity between the two versions, so I'm able to make the transition process a lot smoother. Actually, the transition has been fully complete on GitHub. The legacy, these are separate, two separate repos now. The Unity version is the actual 3D one that I'm currently working on. The 2D has been marked as a legacy version that has been discontinued, depreciated. So it's not working anymore. I'm gonna just while I show you this, just ignore the text. Not ignore the text up here, but ignore how ugly it looks. Okay, I didn't spend as much time on the debugging UI as I did on the previous project because we have the scene view, and the scene view allows you to look at things like the view radius or this is a good thing. This is an important thing to talk about. I changed how the AIs function. The AIs now don't only have a vision cone, which is wider than previous ones. This is actually, the vision cone is pointing this way because it is, I believe, 210 or 220 degrees of vision, which is the perceptible FOV of a normal average human. Not perceptible as in you could like read what's over here, but like if something's moving over there, you're able to still see it. And you also have a sphere of hearing around you. This is just so nothing can creep up behind you, and it, feels a little more realistic. What I might do in the future is build a whole comprehensive sound system and like sound alerts and stuff like that for other agents, but right now this works for an MVP. Guests have the same wandering logic. I mean, we can sit here and observe it a little bit if you would like. Ooh, it's going to be a little laggy in the scene view. I do need to work on optimization, so we're going to do that. Actually, I was going to do that right after I record this devlog. You can see here the guest is wandering. The guest stops between 0 to 2 seconds, any random value between those, between wanders, yeah. Okay, as I was saying, I completely forgot what I was saying. Wandering, guest wanders around. Optimization. I was going to do optimization right after recording this. A lot of optimization needs to be done. I don't think any optimization is going to be done for the scene view. Maybe if I procedurally generate with a game in the game view, it'll be, or not procedurally generate, but use things like a LOD and selective rendering. What is it called when something is hidden when it's out of view? I don't know. Whatever. I completely forgot. I'm blanking. Anyways, that's how guests work. Very simple. There's no zombies, unfortunately, near this guy, but if a zombie were to come within this guy's perception radius, he would start to panic a little bit. He has a little bit of a memory, and he buggers off. Oh, actually, that's actually really important because guests have, this is by survivor. The pathfinding is so much nicer and cleaner here. If I can just right click anywhere, the survivor finds his way there. Pathfinding isn't in the tile now, it's just using the Unity inbuilt nav mesh system. But yeah, you can tell it is pretty laggy, which isn't fun. I do want to run some performance optimization. But anyways, if I find a guest here, I can show you how the guest brain works. Okay, we use a behavior tree for this version of the game. I was essentially trying to create a behavior tree in the previous version of the game, but I actually didn't know behavior trees existed, so I went like a step further, and I realized I don't need that. I can just use a behavior tree for this version of the game when I was porting it over. So we're using a behavior tree for this version of the game. This guest seems to be bugging, and I have no idea why, but I'll give you a guess that's actually working to show you. Again, this isn't perfectly tested, isn't perfectly smooth. It's not production ready right now, okay? But it works. It does what it has to do. So guest behavior is running. You can see here, this is essentially the behavior tree, not in the shape of a tree, in the shape of a list. But it essentially works as a list. So we have a flee sequence, which is currently returning failure because it is checking for danger and it has failed in the check for danger, which it's not intuitive because failure makes it seem like something's not working, but it's working as intended. When it says a check for danger is a failure, it means that no danger has been detected at its perception radius. So flee is idle, it's not fleeing. Then it goes down to seek shelter. It is currently in shelter, so that's a failure. You can tell if something is shelter or a room by looking at the nav mesh component that was created. So if it's blue, it's a corridor, and if it's pink, it's a shelter. I think I just said shelter or room. That makes no sense. Shelter is room. Anyways, needs shelter is returning false or failure. It doesn't need shelter, so it is idle in the seek shelter, and it runs its wandering sequence. Wandering sequence is almost the same as a zombie, except it wanders a little less frequently, so it takes a slightly bigger pauses between wanders. Very simple and way cleaner than the previous system that I was using in the 2D version. Whoa, holy lag. Anyways, that's how the AI works for guests. Zombies, it's pretty much the same as the other version, and Survivor, the only difference is instead of, I believe it's still using an A-star algorithm, but the A-star algorithm is more performant, mostly because it's written in C#, but also partially because of the improvement of the nav mesh algorithm versus the tile-based algorithm that we're using in the 2D, or the just-in-time tile-based generation that we're using in the 2D version. That's enough for the, I'm gonna stop the game because there's a holy lag in the scene view, but that's the logic for the pathfinding and the AIs. HP still works, so if a zombie hits a guest, they get hurt, they take damage, and eventually they die. Same thing for the Survivor, probably. I just haven't observed that happening because the Survivor is usually pretty safe. Next steps are to optimize and to furnish the rest of the rooms, and maybe start creating special rooms. So then we can start thinking of food and water. What I'm also thinking of doing, and this is like a small flavor thing, is adding a time of day. So reintroducing the clock feature and adding a time of day thing where survivors get or guests get a sleepiness score, and if their sleepiness gets high, they have to go to bed and they have to sleep for the rest of the night. I think that would be a cute feature to add, and I think it would be pretty quick. So I might do that. That's like a flavor thing, but it's just a sim thing, right? It adds another need besides just shelter. Because really what we want to do is we want to minimize wandering. Wandering is cool. I like that as a mechanic, but the fact that you're wandering means you're not really doing anything, and if you're not doing anything, there's no life in the project. So that's going to be another important thing when we introduce, like, or that's going to be another thing that we're going to fix when we introduce things like food and water and whatever. The personality system might also come into play, but I'm not sure about that yet. Anyways, I think that covers basically everything. Now, haters will say that the reason why this was so much quicker this time around when I did in Unity instead of the making my own engine method in the 2D version is because I had already like planned it out and the architecture was already semi-built and stuff like that. But realistically, I think that did cut maximum a day of production. But realistically, I think it's just because anti-gravity is so goated, besides the rate limits, which are currently doing my butt. But anti-gravity is so goated. Unity is so much easier than creating your whole engine. I mean, this is already a pre-created engine. Oh, and the idea that I have a 3D environment, which I'm able to like build a room myself and add the furniture, and I don't have to do that all through text, is a lot easier. It's a lot easier. The way I can use like prefabs and already pre-generate the layout of the entire space and corridors and stuff like that. There were a lot of architectural decisions which I made that made the process a lot smoother. So of course, I don't think all of the time saved was because of Unity, but I think in the future and from now on, I think Unity is going to become even more effective because there's so many libraries and so many assets and so many things that are already made that I can just leverage. Not to mention the already great engine that's powering all of this. The only issue is this isn't available on the web, so I can't access it remotely if I want to. That is actually not an issue at all because we're still in the development process and I really don't care about that. If I do eventually want to start packaging up like initial versions or whatever and like create a website where you can download or whatever, I believe Unity it's incredibly easy to package your project as a web app that you can then export. Anyways, I don't know. But I think that's it. I'm gonna keep working on this. I'm very happy with this project. I mean, every waking moment that goes by, I want to keep working on this. And every moment that I'm doing it, I want to not work on it occasionally. But anyways, I think that's it. I think we've covered literally every single thing I had to cover. The asset pack is furniture mega pack. It was just on the asset Unity store. I'm probably going to make my own assets for the game, although I cannot be asked to do that currently. Just want to make development as fast as possible. Something I also didn't show you is just like lights. Oh, because we're not doing the rendered. The room is really cute. Like I'm gonna keep it a stack. I think it's very cute. Oops. Look at this. Wait, these are nice assets. You know, I might even use them for the full game. It doesn't matter a lot when you're doing the orthographic projection from the top, or even if I switch to perspective, because you can't really see the assets. But I'm also thinking of adding like first-person functionality to, or first-person cameras to the agents, and that'll be really interesting. I think that's going to be a step up. But yeah. Anyways, that's it for now. We'll keep working on it, keep grinding, and yeah, okay, that's it. Love you so much. I will maybe see you tomorrow at this rate. I might even start recording vlogs more frequently because the development gets so much faster, but I'll see you tomorrow either way for a video journal. Kiss, kiss. Bye. Love you.